It is on.
And I just started recording. All right, thank you so much again for everybody joining us this evening. My name is Sarah Foy. I'm the coordinator of community engagement and communications for Campbell Union High School District. This evening, we are holding an information session for parents and guardians regarding planning for our virtual learning academy next school year. I just wanted to go over a few webinar etiquettes in case you haven't joined us previously for any of our Q&A or information sessions. Throughout the presentation, you can submit any questions that you have through the Q&A button in the Zoom webinar. Due to time constraints, we may not be able to address every question today, but they will be used to inform future communications and any frequently asked questions that we share with our families or on our website. All lines are currently muted if you are a participant joining us. And also the chat and raise hand functions are disabled. And this webinar is going to be recorded for anyone not able to join us live this evening. We are also hoping to have a Spanish version of the recording as well that we will be able to share with families who aren't able to join at this time. So again, we are hosting an information session tonight just to share with our families our current planning for next year, and in particular around our virtual learning academy. Thank you to everyone who has already submitted their interest form based on the information that we have right now in our current planning. And that'll really help us to determine the design for the program next year. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over now to Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services, Herman Serta, to provide more information on our current planning for the program.
Sarah, I think Herman is having some connectivity issues, but he should be here in just a second. He just sent me a text message.
There he is.
There he is.
There he is.
I couldn't find the link. I thought it was
no, I thought you were already here. Okay, I already did a quick intro for our families, and now I'm handing it over to you if you want to go ahead and pick it up for us with more information on our virtual learning academy for next year.
All right, perfect. Thank you very much. Again, my name is Herman Cerda, I'm the Assistant Superintendent of Educational Services. Thank you for joining us tonight for this presentation. And so I just want to go over what our plans are for the 2021-2022 school year. And there are two instructional options. The first one is we definitely want to offer a virtual learning academy for our students that are benefiting from it, or actually demonstrating some academic gains and mastery of the content standards through that setting. And then the other one is one that the board actually passed a resolution last couple of board meetings, where the goal is to have all students full-time, all 5 days in person. This is a non-hybrid, in person 5 days a week. So it's back pretty much to what students were doing prior to COVID-19. Can you go to the next slide, please? And so I want to talk a little bit about the virtual academy program versus a school, because these are the two options that we're actually considering at this point. You've heard, maybe some of you have followed the board meetings, but we've had conversations around opening an actual school and or a virtual program. So let me just start with what a virtual program is. If we do decide to take this road, which would be an actual program, the students would need to commit for a year so that we have students enrolled in those classes for the year. This option here would allow students to remain enrolled at their school. In other words, they're not leaving their school. If they're from Westmont or Branham, they're participating in this program, but they're not disenrolling from their home school. And this would allow students to participate in extracurricular activities, athletics, right? And that's what we kept on hearing from some of the thought exchange that I'll talk a little bit more about next couple of slides. Students, of course, would receive instruction, live instruction from their teachers, and or we also have an option which gives us a little bit more flexibility. And this, we've been offering Odyssey where classes, teachers in the cloud, where students can actually make up courses or take A to G courses or classes that they need for graduation through Odyssey, which was now purchased by Edgenuity. And so that's the program. The actual virtual school, this would be a whole other school, creating another school. This would be our 7th high school for 9th through 12th students. This is excluding Case. And this would be a permanent placement for the remainder of your students' high school career. So in other words, they would, if they enrolled in the 9th grade, then they would be enrolling in this school from 9th through 12th to complete and, of course, meet all the graduation requirements, UC, CSU, as well as private college requirements. Students, again, would have to transfer. They would have to leave their home schools. So if they're at Lee High School and they want to be part of the virtual school, they would then have to apply for this school, and they would be withdrawn from their home school of Lee or Branham or Del Mar, et cetera. Students here would receive instruction, live instruction from full-time teachers. Teachers, of course, would apply for this school and or transfer, and this is something that would still need to be negotiated with our labor partners. And so they would become, that would become the teacher school as well. And so, and then also the last bullet here, more one-on-one support from their dedicated full-time teachers. You go to the next slide, please. And some of the themes, a couple of weeks ago, we sent out a thought exchange, and these are some of the key themes, the most popular ones that were ranked the highest by our families, students, and this is what they would like to see as a part of the Virtual Learning Academy. One, having those flexible deadlines for student work, the asynchronous, synchronous work where students can actually, they're not stuck to that deadline where they could actually work at their own pace. We can offer some of that. Project-based learning comes out a lot where students identify, a problem that's existing in the world, and they, conduct the research and put together a presentation. And that's how they demonstrate mastery of the actual subject matter and or content standards. The other one is virtual instruction that's accessible from home. That's very popular. Some students are excelling in that, where they don't have to report to a brick and mortar, school classroom. And then independent access to course materials. This one here, we hear it a lot more now that some of the teachers, a lot of our teachers, pretty much everywhere are now pre-recording their lessons. They're uploading their some of the work, the PowerPoint presentations, and students can access it at any time. If they miss a day, they can still view the actual lessons and or the presentations. And then, of course, high quality instruction. They want to see high quality instruction that's actually moving students toward mastery of the content standards. That, of course, very, very high, which is a goal that we definitely want to continue moving toward. And then the tools, there are just so many different tools. Just when I visit classes, when students are breaking out into different breakout rooms, they're actually collaborating with all the different instructional online tools that we've purchased. And there are just so many out there that students are just engaging in just some very high level tasks and conversations around the actual subject matter. If you can go to the next slide, please. And last week on April the 26th, we sent an interest form to families, and here it just gives you an idea of where we're at with the interest in the district. We want to know what the actual interest is. And last week, I believe we started a little slow. We were at about 150 or so, and now we're up to 281 families, students that are actually interested in the Virtual Learning Academy, and then 65 that have not decided yet. So we're up at around 350 or so. And if you have not submitted your interest form, remember that you're not committing to the Virtual Learning Academy. You're just letting us know if you are interested in this option so that we have an idea of where we're at with families wanting this option. So if you have not submitted it, please do so tonight. Tomorrow is the deadline, May 4th. And so may the 4th be with you. I had to throw that one in there. Anyhow, if you are interested, please do submit your interest form. And I believe we have one more slide. No, we don't. And so we're going to go ahead and open it for questions. I'm sure you have lots of questions. We do have our district team here that can also jump in and answer any questions that I may not be able to answer. And so thank you very much. And thank you for joining us. I'll turn it over to you now, Sarah.
Thank you, Herman, for giving that high-level overview of what our current thinking and planning is for the Virtual Learning Academy next year. We do have a few questions. I just wanted to quickly go over how to submit a question if you haven't already. Submit it through the Q&A button in Zoom webinar. And again, we'll try to get to as many as we can, but otherwise we'll use it to inform future communications. You won't be able to use the chat or hand raise feature, but we are also recording this. And then Herman, would you mind also providing Spanish translation for this slide to allow people to know how to access our current translation services available for this Q&A session?
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Y para los padres que hablan español, esta es las instrucciones para que ustedes pueden escuchar las respuestas en su idioma de español. Si pueden hacer el clic donde dice interpretación, haga clic para español ahí para que le empiece a traducir en su idioma de español. Así es que si llegaron tarde, esas son las instrucciones para que puedan entonces escuchar las respuestas, las preguntas en su idioma de español. Gracias.
Thank you, Herman.
No.
So one of the questions that we saw a lot in the interest form was around if a student was enrolled into the program for next year or the school, would they have to leave their home school permanently, or kind of what that looks like, depending on what we decide to move forward with as far as the planning?
Right. If it's a program, then they do not need to leave their school. They will be taking courses through the Virtual Academy program. But if we do opt to go with the actual Virtual Academy High School, which would be a separate school, we'd have to apply for a CDS code. That is a separate school. They would have to disenroll from their home school to be enrolled in the academy.
Thanks. And one of the other questions that has come up around the course offerings, would it be a similar course offerings as their current homeschool? And also if AP or honors classes would also be potentially offered at the Virtual Learning Academy?
Correct. And that's the goal. The goal is to offer, we are not going to change our graduation requirements. And so therefore the same graduation requirements are going to apply. So we are hoping to offer every single course available. Now, of course, there are special programs like at Del Mar where you have the ID classes. So that may not be a course that they would be able to take in the academy. But as far as like AP level courses, yes. And remember that this is based on need. So if we do have a need where we do have a lot of students that are taking AP level courses, then we definitely will have to serve the needs of our students. And that's the goal for all our students.
And also another question is, what is the flexibility around students changing their mind? Even if we do a program, kind of what is the commitment there for families and their students?
So if we go with the program route, we're asking for a 1-year commitment. And the reason we're asking for a 1-year commitment is because we have to ensure that there are plenty of, enough sections and or full-time positions at the homeschool. And so those classes get filled up. And so when we're taking, those kids are enrolling in the academy, if it's a program, we're asking for them to commit for the year because we may be at capacity at the school. Now, if there's space available on a case-by-case basis, then we can make that determination if this program is not fitting the needs of that student. Of course, we want them to be successful. And so therefore, we would work something out to, where, hey, you know what, we'll send you back to the school. There is room, but it's, we're gonna have to be very careful with the, what the space and availability is. And if it is a school, they will have to leave their home school. And so we do have board policy, intra-board policies that we need to follow. So once they leave their school, they're enrolling in a brand, in a whole new school. So they've left their school. They would have to reapply, submit an intra-district permit where, Ms. Director of Student Services, Ms. Crystal Adams actually oversees that, and she would have to then determine whether and it's based on space as well. So we're asking for that 1-year commitment, and yes, there are policies that we're going to have to follow, district policies and regulations.
And really, the way that we're kind of determining if it's going to be a program or a school next year is based on kind of the level of interest and how many families are willing to commit to the permanent structure of actually transferring out of their home school. So right now it seems like the level of interest is more into the program and kind of wanting it to be, you know, starting small and then seeing kind of where it takes us from there. So just to give families a little bit of context there of kind of where our heads currently at, though we haven't officially decided, but we do hope to provide an update to our Board of Trustees this upcoming Thursday. One of the other questions that came through is around if they did enroll into the virtual school, would they have the same graduation diploma as they would be if they were in their current home schools? If when
Yeah,
they
they're,
graduate?
they're gonna get their graduate, yeah, their diploma is the same. It's from Campbell Union High School District. If it's a program, they would get, if they're participating in the program and it's a one-year commitment, they're getting their Westmont diploma, they're getting their Branham diploma. So, but if it's a school, again, it's different. They would be getting, the board will decide on the name. Right now, where we have a very generic name, which is the Virtual Learning Academy. That's what we've named it, but if that's what we go with, and that's what the actual diploma would read if it's a school.
And is there the potential for a student to do half of their classes virtual and half of them in person, or is it kind of a commitment to either or next year that you're thinking?
And the goal is to get students to offer them that 100% virtual, but if there are certain cases where there's a particular course that students can take in person, then that's something that we would basically determine on a case-by-case basis. If it's going to benefit the student, we wouldn't want it to hurt them. So yeah, they could take one course in person and the rest it could be in a remote setting.
Great. And then also, you know, questions around, you know, social interactions, if there is still going to be an opportunity for students to have, you know, in-person extracurriculars, and also if they're able to participate in athletics and sports. And that really, I think, just is based on if we decide to go with the program versus a school. But do you have anything else to add with that?
No, just, yeah, if it's a school, it's gonna be a little bit more challenging for them. One, if they do enroll in the virtual high school, which is a separate school, they will not be able to participate in athletics activities at their home school because they've left that school.
Yes, so I think that is also something that is really helping to like inform our planning, is that we have heard a lot from families that they are interested in still being able to participate in the extracurriculars at their home school. So that is definitely something we're taking into consideration when we're thinking about a program versus a school. If you guys also have input on that, please make sure to add that in the Q&A so we can know your thoughts. And there's, you know, I think that some families are just wanting more information, or if you could clarify even further with some examples around what the difference is between a program and a school.
Well, the program, for example, independent studies is a program. So that would be, that's one option where students take courses that we're not changing the curriculum, they're taking the same classes that they would in an alternate setting. And so that's one way. Independent studies is one of them. We have Camden Post-Secondary that is housed over at the district office. That's also a program. The middle college, that's another program. It's not a separate school. Students are actually enrolled at their home school. They're taking courses from, you know, at Westmont, Lee, but they're also taking, you know, concurrently, they're taking college courses at West Valley Mission. So those are some of the examples that I could give you of a program. And here, what we're trying to do is we're trying to build on our current online remote learning that we've been under for, you know, the past year or so, and we want to build on that and make it better so that it's servicing our kids better, so that they're fulfilling, of course, the A to Z requirements, UCCSU, and that there's highly effective first instruction.
And then there is a question around students with special needs, and if is the virtual academy going to be able to accommodate students who have an IEP, and if how that process would go, if they would need to work with their IEP team, or how they might be recommended to go forward with the program or not.
You want to take this one, Darren?
Yeah, so absolutely. Of course, with any student with an IEP, we want to make sure that the offered program is within that student's least restrictive environment, but there would definitely be opportunities for students with IEPs in the virtual academy.
Thank you. And there is questions around if they are enrolled into the virtual school, like is it a move at your own pace kind of program, or will they stay on pace with their peers in the in-person school?
Can you repeat that question? I'm sorry.
Yes, there's a question around if a student is enrolled in the virtual learning academy, if they stay on pace with their peers, or if can they be at an accelerated pace with completing the course, or will they be able to actually spend more time on some of the course content, kind of what that flexibility in schedules really means
Right.
for the student perspective.
And they can accelerate. One of the things about Odyssey, where if they take the course and they're actually demonstrating mastery, it's at their own pace. So we've had students, it was actually very successful last summer. It was our first year where we actually went 100% Odyssey, where except for ESY for our extended school year, for our students that participate in the extended school year. And we actually had about 75% of the students, about 600 students that took those courses in a 5-week window, and they actually ended up completing IM1 classes, 2, 3 in 5 weeks. Some actually completed 2 courses. So yeah, yes, you could definitely accelerate some of those classes.
And then there is questions around like who the teachers might be, if like if a student is currently a Westmont student, will they be assigned with a Westmont teacher for the program or the school, or is it going to be kind of, all students are going to be assigned based on the teachers available or the teachers in the program? Is it going to line up with their home school's teachers, or is it going to be just like who's available in the program?
Yeah, that's a very, very good question, but I think it's going to be a combination. One, it depends on the number of students, subject matter, where the teachers are coming from. We could have more teachers from Lee, very few from Westmont that are interested in being a part of this academy, and so we can't guarantee that you're going to have your Westmont teacher. So we're gonna use all our faculty and staff that are interested, our teachers that are interested, subject matter, and then based on need, we will then build those classes for our students in every grade level that are interested.
And there are just questions around like specific courses like PE and courses that have lab. Would those also be virtual, or would those be courses that would have to be in person, or kind of how those kinds of classes might be handled in a virtual learning academy?
Very good question. We're actually, we have an academy a virtual academy advisory committee. There we go. I got it right. We have science teachers there, so we're actually engaging in those conversations around what that's going to look like, whether we're going to dedicate certain labs at certain schools so that the labs are actually, students can actually, participate in those labs in person. And so that's something that we're still working out. So we're hoping that we'll have a better plan by in the next month or so.
Yes, and I know some people had indicated that in the interest form, it really was a bit more permanent, right? When you were, submitting for the interest form. And so we just want to clarify that we did put out the interest form to kind of see to what extent people were interested in a more permanent option. But even if, you are interested in the 1-year option and didn't complete the interest form, that doesn't mean that you won't be able to still participate in the program next year. It was more for us to be able to have a better understanding of just to what extent people would want to commit to a program like that or a school like that. The next phase of us actually recruiting students will be a bit more permanent, whereas the interest form is really an interest form and not any sort of commitment. So if you are on this webinar and didn't finish the interest form or didn't or were confused about that part, we will be putting out more communication after this week when we present our findings to the board. But we wanted to make sure to have this information session to answer your questions and also to see if there are things that we need to incorporate into our final design based on the input that you guys are giving us tonight. So thank you for that. And then a couple other questions that we'll get to before we wrap up is, so the question around is this, who's the kind of the student that we're trying to use, who would be the perfect student for this kind of program? Is it a student who is just trying to be, accelerating, or are we really hoping to make it so it's a flexible option for all students interested in still remaining virtual next year? Can you just kind of share what the profile of a typical student who might be successful in this kind of program?
Yes, and this, yeah, we definitely we want that flexibility for our students. There are students that actually have accelerated in the virtual academy setting, in the independent studies setting. And so we're looking for students that will actually benefit um, academically in the virtual academy setting for this program uh, to work. Of course, we want to make sure that we're addressing needs of every student that's going to be a part of the academy. So it's not, you may have some students that have just not been successful in the brick and mortar setting where they've struggled, and this would be an alternative option for some of them. And of course, if there are students that are not demonstrating success in this particular program, then the other option is to figure out whether maybe they would benefit from going back to the brick and mortar setting, right? So that's something that we're definitely going to be monitoring, supporting our students, and ensuring that this is serving all their needs.
And then also a really great question that came through is kind of, if we're stepping back, what would a typical day for a student look like? Would they still have the live instruction through distance learning or through the virtual learning academy? So can you just, if we decide to go with the program option, kind of what a typical day for a student might look like?
And right now, what we're looking at is we're looking at the live instruction is the option that we're looking at, similar to what we're doing now. There could be an option where we may have the Wednesday asynchronous, or some type of check-in is the other option. We're looking at a blended option as well. And so there could be a check-in once a week for students to give them that support, uh, just to have more of that follow up. What do you need? Maybe a student needs a little bit more individualized support, academic embedded support. And so, but definitely live instruction, they would be showing up to their classes. We still have not determined what the schedule is going to look like. So that's a conversation I know we're going to have with the academy. And so it could look very similar to what we are doing right now, but only making it better, making it more rigorous, addressing the academic integrity, I know, is a big issue and a concern, where when I meet with the department chairs, it's like kids are cheating. And so how do we know that, these grades are not, are accurate and are not being inflated? And so we're definitely going to address all that. But students, as far as the schedule, we're hoping that, yeah, this is going to offer live instruction.
And I know there is a lot of thoughts around, social interaction and isolation in a distance learning setting. As a student, if we decide to do a program where they are still enrolled in their home school, they still will have the same access to mental health supports and counseling as they would if they were in person. Is that accurate?
That is very, very accurate. We've actually, we're adding a couple of social workers. We're continuing to add additional CASI counselors that will be working at all the sites. And so that's definitely a support that they will be getting.
And I think you kind of explained that we are still working on the schedule, but I think that the flexible piece of it would be if a teacher might record their lesson or just provide more opportunities for them to be able to access the course curriculum, or be able to engage maybe at a different time, is kind of what we're thinking possibly for that flexible type of schedule for a student.
Correct.
And I know there were a couple of people who wanted access to the interest form again. So I am going to go ahead and put that in the Q&A chat. But I think we got through most of the questions that people were asking. A lot of them were relatively the same around if they, if they can kind of go at their own pace, which we addressed that. We hope that it will be a flexible option for students. And then a question around office hours, and if those would be in person or if that would be virtual as well. I know that might be something that we're still going to have to discuss with our labor partners and get input from teachers on. But is that something that we have kind of already started discussing, or is that still on the table?
No, that's actually something we're going to be discussing in the advisory meetings, committee meetings that we have one scheduled this Wednesday, and we're going to be building on that. Of course, having a conversation around what is the mission vision of this academy, what's it going to look like, what's the schedule, the ideal schedule going to look like that is going to work best for our students. And so those are the conversations that we're going to be engaging in.
And also one thing that did come up also in the interest form is around what platform will be used to house course content and assessments and those kinds of things. Would they still be using Canvas or Google Classroom or Odyssey-ware? What does that kind of look like as far as access to curriculum online?
Canvas, we're going to continue to use Canvas as well as Mastery Connect. We just started rolling that one out, and so that's the other piece to it that we're going to add as well. And am I missing anything, Emily? As well as all the instructional tools that we've been purchasing, Edpuzzle, Gizmos. I mean, there's just so many of them that we purchased, and we're going to continue to purchase.
Yes.
There we go.
And also, there was a question around if they are not a part of the Virtual Learning Academy, the default would be that they would be full in person based on our current planning. Obviously, with COVID, things are always changing and we don't know the future. But our current planning is that we hope that the default instructional model for all students will be 5 days a week in person with not hybrid, but fully in person, one-on-one with the teacher. But that we did want to also provide a virtual option because there are a lot of families who still are interested in continuing with distance learning for one reason or another. So that is kind of where we came from, was trying to provide more options and to kind of see to what extent our families really needed this option as well. And this goes for incoming 9th graders all the way up until obviously our current 11th graders are eligible to be a part of this program, correct?
That's correct.
Great. And if we decide to go with the program and it's more of a 1-year commitment, if a student is a senior doing the program, will they still be able to graduate with their peers in their home school and be in person and do graduation that way, right?
Yes, since it's a program, remember that they're just taking courses that are fulfilling the A to G requirements, the graduation requirements, and they would participate with their class, similar to what middle college students, they participate in the graduation at their home school.
All right, I think we got through almost all the questions, and if we didn't get to your question tonight, we will definitely review everything that was submitted in the Q&A, and we are recording this, so we will post it on our website. We do currently have a Virtual Learning Academy webpage on the CUHSD website. You should be able to find it under our current phased return to in-person instruction category under trending topics on the homepage. And we are going to post the recording of this webinar here. And we will also provide an FAQ in the next coming days as we prepare to provide a recommendation to the board on Thursday. And then we will communicate any updates following that. So we appreciate everybody's time this evening. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, Herman, or anybody else from the group?
I do not. I don't know if anybody else does. Just thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for everybody joining tonight. We really appreciate your time and your busy schedule. And again, we'll be providing more updates in the future. And I hope you all have a great night.